You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
This week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball with all of us. My name is Tyler Mon. Samuel Dykstra and Benjamin Hill are in New York City. Sam, I left out your middle initial. Are you happy? Hi, everyone. How are you?
Well, we should say that it was your birthday on Monday, Tyler. So happy belated birthday.
Thank you, buddy.
And I was being attacked for my middle name. And I was like, you know what? It's Tyler's birthday. I'm going to take the high road. And I'm going to send out a tweet saying, like, you know, it's great to work with your friends and it's great to have friends like Tyler. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to set the bar at nice here.
It is true. He is the nicest guy.
I was wondering if there were going to be lingering after effects of that. So I guess that's what I get this week. Your own birthday present to me is
right,
by just saying my name.
Is just by saying your
my
name.
Parents gave it to me.
Samuel Collins Dykstra.
Thank you.
The Collins has a silent P at the beginning. Benjamin Hill is with us as well. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Tyler. Hi, Sam. Yeah, that's Benjamin Gregory Hill.
Gregory, I was just going to ask you.
Yeah, Benjamin G. Hill. We have Sam P. and Ben G.
I did. So Wander Franco's middle name is Samuel, and Sam tweeted out a comment about how Wander Franco has a great middle name. And so then I responded and said, Wander Samuel Prospectus Dykstra Franco. And then we had people who were jumping in on the fun. It's fantastic. It's so weird when it's like that scene in That Thing You Do when the guy comes up at the bar and asks when they're releasing a record, and Lenny turns to the rest of the band and goes, hey, wasn't that our fan? That's how I always feel. When people interact with us with our own inside jokes. Like, oh, people listen to this show. It's amazing.
Yeah, and then I feel bad because I carry on the bit of me being very angry about it. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. And I was like, no, you're not.
He's not actually angry.
Yeah.
Although I did think the other day, like, should I text Sam and see if he gets mad when I call him Samuel Prospectus Dykstra?
I mean, to be very clear, I do get angry. Make no bones about that. I do get angry. But, you know. I appreciate podcast bits, so I will take one for the team.
Oh, man, that is fantastic. Well, we got a lot to get to on this week's episodes of the Show Before the Show. You may have noticed in your podcast feed that there is not one, but two episodes of the show this week. We set a bar when Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was called up to the major leagues, and we want to continue hitting that bar with the promotion of the top prospect in baseball, Wander Franco. The phenom has arrived in the big leagues. We were recording this on Wednesday, the 23rd. Last night, he belted a 3-run game-tying homer for his first major league hit. The video of his dad beaming with pride went around the internet today. Very cool start to the major league career of Wander Franco, especially with the ground level video in which you could hear somebody yelling overrated at Wander Franco the moment that the pitch was delivered that he annihilated for a 3-run homer. And that was pretty sweet. But we do have a special emergency Wander Franco podcast, which you can listen to right now if you are into the Wander Franco news. But otherwise, we're going to dive into our regularly scheduled edition of the Show Before the Show. And we are joined, of course, by our good buddy Ben Hill, who has a great story that is up on the site. And we're going to talk about this one first as we get started with Ben. There was a game played last week between the low-A Jupiter Hammerheads and the visiting St. Lucie Mets, in which maybe the weirdest foul ball in baseball history, certainly in recent memory, was swatted off the bat of Cameron Barstad. And Ben, I just want to let you take it away and tell us the story because it's terrific.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. I mean, listeners of this podcast and readers of my work, of which there are several, are aware that, you know, I love to focus on the weird things that happen at minor league ballparks, the things you can't plan for, the quirky, the strange, the completely improbable. So let me set the scene. It's Roger Dean's Chevrolet Stadium, home of the Jupiter Hammerheads. As Tyler said, they're playing the St. Lucie Mets. There's one out in the bottom of the 4th inning, score tied at 1-1. Runner on second base, Cameron Barstad at the plate. Oscar Rojas pitching for the St. Lucie Mets. The count is now 1-0, and the next pitch, Cameron Barstad fouls off the ball. Seconds later, sirens are blaring and the ballpark is being evacuated. And, if you're at a minor league game and a fire alarm goes off and the stadium's being evacuated and no one knows why, that's a kind of harrowing moment. What's going on here? We got to get out of here. So it's a kind of chaotic scene. And no one knows why the fire alarm's going off in the fourth inning of this low A baseball game. And it didn't take long to determine, however, that the fire alarm went off because Cameron Barstad hit a foul ball. He's a catcher, but he bats lefty. Hit a foul ball over the third base side into the concourse, and it smashed a fire alarm mounted on a concourse wall and hit it at exactly the right angle to pull down the lever and trigger the alarm. So this game,
it's not like this was just like it had to smack a button. Like it wasn't something easy like that. I mean, easy, quote unquote, like that. Like this is mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the fire alarm, if you envision a fire alarm in your mind, it's that fire alarm, the one in schools or hotel hallways or whatever, the little red box with the pull down lever. So they had one of those mounted on the concourse wall, and the foul ball hit it just perfectly to, one, break the alarm, but two, to trigger it. And just a crazy moment. So when I got tagged in a tweet over the weekend where someone was like, "Hey, you see this?" I was like, "No, I did not. Thank you." And then I reached out to the Hammerhead, spoke with their GM, Jamie Toole, yesterday. And I just love these kind of stories. He just kind of told me a little bit more about, how it went down on his end. How, if you work in minor league baseball, you're just on your walkie-talkie on the radio all game long, talking to your staff members, making sure everything's going smoothly. So there he is in the press box talking on the walkie-talkie about a busted toilet. Then the fire alarm goes off and it's just like, what is going on? I just love those kind of moments. Unfortunately, I was not able to get Cam Barstad on the record, but he retweeted the story and seems to like it. I wish I'd gotten a couple quotes from him. I was unable to get in touch with him yesterday when I wrote the story. But he'll always have a claim to fame here in the early stages of his career. He's just 20 years old, low A, as the guy who set off a fire alarm at a minor league baseball game with a foul ball. And, at the end of the story, I quote Jamie Toole saying, in typical minor league fashion, we have to do something now. So I am hoping and looking forward to some sort of Cam Barstad fire alarm giveaway item, baseball card, something that kind of immortalizes this crazy moment.
Yeah, maybe turn one of the concession stands into a chili stand, something like that. Fire alarm chili. I don't know. That's for some reason that's what popped into my head. I know chili is not really a ballpark food, but that's where my mind went. One thing we should point out about this,
Cam Barstad's 5-alarm chili.
Yeah, there we go. One thing we should point out about this story too is that Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium, they're not open the entire week to fans, right? Like this happened to be.
Yeah, they were open on this game, and I should have asked that. I'm not sure. They started off the season. It's a very strange scenario. This is a facility that hosts, 2 spring training teams, major league teams, obviously, in terms of the Marlins and the Cardinals, and then both their low A affiliates play at the ballpark, sharing a ballpark, which is why there's always an odd number of minor league stadiums, even though there's an even number of teams, because the Palm Beach Cardinals and Jupiter Hammerheads share Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium. But there were fans in the ballpark on Saturday night. And, Jamie Toole said, it's, the erstwhile Florida State League, it's never been known for drawing a ton, but he said they're doing pretty well by the context of the league. And, they had a good walk-up crowd that night. And he said some of the fans didn't come back, even though it was a short delay. Once you have to leave the ballpark because the fire alarm's going off, I think some people are like, yeah, I'll hit you up next time, guys. But for the most part, it was so short that the game resumed, without much of a thought. And Cam Barstad hit a 442-foot home run the next night, and you have to attribute that to some sort of post-fire alarm foul ball energy.
Yeah, there's got to be some adrenaline going on. I would imagine that probably lasts for 24 hours or so. Ben, let's pivot real quick to a series of stories that you're going to be having come out on MiLB.com in the weeks, months, years potentially ahead. It's ballpark guides, which obviously you have great experience writing these for MiLB.com, your blogs, other things in the past. But this is kind of bringing the ballparks that we know and love across minor league baseball to a bigger audience. And you started here with the Amarillo Sod Poodles, who play at Hodgetown. And I need everybody at home to, when they visualize Hodgetown, know that it is in all caps. That is a big stylized thing. Why they do that, I'm not entirely sure, but I love it every time because it feels like somebody's yelling the name of a ballpark at me. But what can you tell us about Amarillo's Hodgetown and what this series is going to be like as you expand it?
Right. I think the latter part of your question is, for me, the most important right now, in that this is a new thing for me in terms of embarking on a big long-term project, the minor league ballpark guide, which will include comprehensive write-ups for MLB.com of every single minor league ballpark. So, it's going to take months and months and months and months to do. I hope to have some contributors work with me so I don't have to do every one myself. A lot of it draws on the material I have from having visited 177 different ballparks over the last decade. So it's a way to kind of put together my material for a new audience. A lot of that's scattered around MiLB.com articles, old Ben's Biz blog posts, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a good way to put it all together in a new format. I mean, I think these articles look great, just utilizing a new article template, really pop visually. And the big picture plan, as these continue to come out, is they will all be organized into one distinct spot with a ticketing map. So you can actually plan road trips around, these write-ups, or if you're planning a road trip, you can click on every team to get all the information within it. So it's an overview of every single minor league ballpark. And yes, the first one is the Amarillo Sod Poodles. Hodgetown opened in 2019. And, so this sets the template, and a lot of the other articles will be similar to this, explaining a little bit about the background and history of the team and the ballpark. But the main thing is just saying, what kind of ballpark is this? What are the features? Who is the mascot? What are the concession items? And then beyond that, what can you do in the area? What can you go get to eat? What are other teams, nearby, or in the case of the Amarillo Sod Poodles, comparatively nearby, because it's Texas and nothing is close to anything else. And so it's a lot of work, but I hope this will be, as it comes together, a great resource for people, the minor league ballpark guide. And as it comes together, this is still in the works, but I want to solicit feedback. And I think in the future, as I start to write these articles, I want to get discussions, particularly on Twitter, going of, hey, I'm going to be writing about this ballpark. What are your favorite things about it? Or, what is your favorite restaurant in this city? And, be able to solicit feedback from people in these articles, because while I do consider myself an expert in this realm, how much of an expert can you be if you've only spent a night or 2 nights at a certain location? I want to make sure in a lot of cases that it has some local input as well, because locals are going to know, exponentially more about me or anyone else about places to visit in the city. And, I like to get off the beaten path, throw in a record store reference, or, more hole in the wall dining options, and, keep it quirky and keep it irreverent and keep it fun. And so here we go. Amarillo Sod Poodles is up now. I think they'll start running about once a week in the future. Hopefully they'll ramp up more than that in the off season, and we'll see what happens.
That is fantastic stuff, and is really going to be a pretty transformative series of stories that are up on MLB.com and on Major League parent club sites as well. And with that, we will pivot to our interview segment this week. I have to preface the interview segment by saying that I jumped into the interview late. And I know Ben gave the introduction and said that it was him and Sam, because it was him and Sam, along with our guest this week, Jesse Goldberg-Strassler from the Lansing Lugnuts. And then I just pirated ninja'd my way into this segment. So you'll hear my voice just pop up randomly. But Ben, give us the preview of this interview. This is one of my favorite ones that we've done recently.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, Tyler. You will appear uncredited in this interview. It's like a secret cameo, and you added a lot to the interview, because this interview is about the art of broadcasting and what a long road it is to be a truly accomplished professional sports broadcaster. So we're talking to Jesse Goldberg-Strassler about his initiative, Demo Critique Day, hashtag Demo Critique Day on Twitter, which I believe was Monday, June 21st, an annual endeavor dedicated to broadcasters being able to network with one another and share their demo reels, their demo tapes, and get feedback. And Jesse, well, you'll hear from Jesse. He's a great guy, one of the most unique and beloved broadcasters in minor league baseball, and he has a lot to say about the topic.
This past year has shown us that without your health, you have nothing. If you're not well, you can't work, look after yourself, or take care of your family. You can't enjoy the life you've worked so hard to build. That's why you need to prioritize taking care of your long-term health today. before it goes from good to bad to worse. So invest in your long-term health with Forward. Forward is intelligent medicine with a personal touch. Their doctors are dedicated to catching top killers like cancer and heart disease early before it's too late. And catching them early could save you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run. Everyone's health history is different, which is why Forward doctors personalize a health plan with you, based on your genetics, lifestyle, and biometrics to achieve long-term results and ensure nothing gets missed. It's time to invest in a doctor that's invested in you. Go to goforward.com today to protect your future health. That's goforward.com. Goforward.com.
Here on the Show Before the Show podcast, Sam Dykstra and myself, Ben Hill, are delighted to be joined by Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, the longtime broadcaster for the Lansing Lugnuts, who are now a Oakland Athletics High A affiliate in the High A Central League. I believe I got that right. It's been a lot of changes here in the minor leagues, and we could talk about that forever, but we're not here to talk about that, nor are we here to talk forever. We're here to talk to Jesse about an initiative he started and that really took place. We're speaking here on Tuesday, June 22nd. One day before was a holiday of sorts, not a holiday, a day of work and connection in the broadcasting world, Demo Critique Day. And that is an opportunity for broadcasters all over sports to share their demos, get critique from other broadcasters, and hone their trade, network, and just improve their games. And it's an interesting concept. And Jesse, thank you for being here, and tell us about Demo Critique Day and how it came about.
Well, thank you for having me. There was a group Zoom hosted by Lisa Pride for One Baseball Mike. And she was asking, what can we do to broaden the opportunities? What can we do to amplify voices? Because here's the difficulty is, because we're on the inside, if you're a broadcaster who actually has a job broadcasting for a team, I'm not going to say it presents that much power, but it does allow us to say, since we're behind the curtain, what can we do to draw the curtain back? What can we do to help people stick their foot in the door? Or at the very least, prop the door open, grab a doorstop for somebody. And it just came to me that one of the best things that we can do is start to just try to reach out and connect people that I don't know who they are, people that I might never meet in person. But if we simply declare a day to say, put your demo out there and we'll retweet it. Put your demo out there and we'll try to bring it to the attention of people that we know, whom we can connect you with. Maybe we can bring voices to ears that they would not otherwise reach. And I put this idea out there that there would just be a day that would be a demo day for employers, for job deciders, for anybody who would have any kind of influence to try to discover people that they would not otherwise discover. And I put it out there as a poll saying, what would be the best month for this? Well, Mike Farron, the Arizona Diamondbacks, said, you shouldn't do a demo day where you just amplify all these voices. You should do a critique day first, because before people get their demos ready to be hired, they need to have proper guidance. They need to have things to work on during the baseball season first. That's something that we're all striving. All right, it's the season and we're going game in, game out, looking for any kind of direction. And that's what a critique brings from someone who's a little bit more ensconced, from someone who is a little bit more experienced, something that they have learned from all of their games, all of their reps, that they can then lend someone, and it might be advice that they've never even thought of before. So from Mike saying we should have a critique day, that's where yesterday came about. And I talked to Adam Giardino of the Black Play-by-Play Fund just about when would be a good day, when am I not stepping on any toes, and it's entirely grassroots. I just threw that out there into the void, saying, here's the hashtag. Let's see if anyone is able to see this and take advantage of it. Let's try this. So my thinking is, if we got one person, two people heard by somebody who would not otherwise hear them, that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's obviously huge. And that's how the ball got rolling here. Now that we are a day after this? What was the response? Like, I don't think people out there know just how many, sports broadcasters are out there searching for work, searching for critique, trying to get better with these demo reels. So what was the response? And, when did you start to see this really pick up momentum?
I think we barely scratched the surface too. I think that this is something that can build momentum and reach more people, just judging by all of the broadcasters that I would see at the winter meetings each year. I think this is a really difficult time for broadcasting as an industry because there aren't too many opportunities and there are tons of people getting bottlenecked. All of those sports broadcasters in college, all of those broadcasters coming out of college, all of those broadcasters who had positions and lost their positions over the course of the pandemic era. There's a lot of people who would like to broadcast games who are just trying to find any kind of lifeline. So I think the reaction was good, just continuing to see demos pop up throughout the day and people continuing to spread the word. And Mark Simon checking in to say, hey, I'm going to listen to some of these. Let me give some critiques. Alex Cohen from the Iowa Cubs contacting me privately and saying, I've done 3-4 critiques so far and let's keep this going. I think that I do not truly understand the extent to which people were reached, but to the extent that I understand it, I think that it went over very well.
Jesse, what's the feedback that you get from young broadcasters? I know one of the tough things, in any industry, but I think especially as a broadcaster and a young broadcaster is learning, here's what I need to do better, because I think we all are a little bit private about our own styles and about our own crutches and all of that. And it takes some learning to realize that, when people give you a critique, they're trying to help you get better and all of that. It's not a shot at you or anything like that. What have you learned from, young broadcasters who go through this and how they appreciate the things that they do learn from it?
When you say more private, what do you mean?
I think in a context of this is my style, it's kind of an intimate thing, being a broadcaster and being somebody who's a voice that's out there conveying something to people, your own style is sort of like your own personality. And I think there are certain people who think if a critique is there, it's a criticism of the way that they do things. And so for certain broadcasters, I think that level of intimacy in sharing their own performance, their own style, sometimes that gets a little I don't know what exactly the word is, but you almost feel kind of like, well, if I'm putting this out there and people are telling me, well, here's something that you can tweak and do better, maybe that feels like something that is almost an attack or something like that. Like when you're young, it's difficult to learn that it's not that way. You know what I mean?
I think when you're old, it's difficult to learn that it's not that way.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that what I struggle with, but what I think is true, is that both of these things have to be true. You have to believe that you are already good enough to do it. You have to believe that you can get better. And if you have only one of those, if you believe I'm good enough to do it, but you don't believe that you can get better, if you believe that you have to get better, but you don't believe that you're good enough to do it, you will struggle. And I think that you can find that spectrum of the people who are really fragile with it, who doubt themselves. And that's the camp that I come from, where I remember how poor I was broadcasting in college. And I still doubt myself and I still listen to others and go, I wish I could be better. I'm not good enough yet. And then there are those broadcasters who, when you try to say you could do this to get yourself to the next level, you could do that to get yourself to the next level. Well, they already believe that they are at that next level. So it's a difficult fine line to walk. I think about the Gordon Corman book, Son of Interflux, where there's a main character who's a painter studying in school, and he brings his painting up for the critique, and the teacher gives him 45 minutes worth of criticisms. So what does he do? He tears the painting down, and he tries an entirely new painting. And at the end of the book, they're going, if you just worked with that painting that you did, and you work to improve the things that you work on, you could be a master. But when you start anew, here come 45 more minutes of criticisms your way. I think that the understanding of how to give critique and the understanding of how to receive critique are both difficult learned skills. I do not think that it's innate to understand how to accept criticism, positive, negative, constructive. I do not think that it's innate to know how to give it. But I do think for every broadcaster, wherever they are, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's people at the topmost for whichever network or any single team, that they have had somebody, and probably multiple plural somebodies, give them guidance along the way that really, really helped. And that's what this is the aim for, is just to say, here's a direction, here's a guidance. And it's not just give the score every minute, give the score every 2 minutes. It's something very specific that if you just add this in, it's Boog Shambi saying, get ahead of every single pitch, or add a little thing in when you describe something. It might be a broadcaster saying, hey, give this story, add something to this inning. I really enjoy the Dan Schulman, even though he doesn't realize that he does this. Each half inning, it focuses on the second batter of the half inning. And the first batter he calls normal, and the third batter he calls normal, and the second batter, there's a story there that's going to carry him through that half inning. Each of us, in trying to learn our craft, comes at it individually, but we can each learn something that we then introduce someone else to that helps them. So yeah, I think that that's difficult for the young broadcaster to understand how to hear something and use it so that it works for you. But I also think that we are presented with new pieces of knowledge all the time that here, this is new. This is a new social media platform. This is a new website kind of mechanism that how can you get it to work for you? So I'm sorry that was such a long answer to your question. I love the idea, though, of connecting people to people who have an element of wisdom that could then uplift someone and push them further into a really good direction.
What I think is great, and please don't apologize for long answers because that's what we love, and that was a great one. You and I can. I think this is actually the first time that you and I are speaking, certainly over Zoom, obviously, but I think it's like the first time that we're actually speaking. But I feel like we've known each other for, I got into the minors in 2009. I feel like we've basically known each other since all that time. And we could do, a series of shows just about this and these weird intricacies and things like that. I think because when you get into the nuts and bolts and kind of the granular elements of broadcasting styles, there are those little things like you talked about. And I love that you mentioned Alex Cohen. I remember, one of my last great memories before the pandemic, doing games in Tokyo. Alex was part of our crew for the WBSC Premier 12. And I remember we had a night in our hotel. We're in this bar that overlooks the Tokyo Dome, and it's me and Alex Cohen and Andrew Reynolds, who used to be with the Northwest Arkansas Naturals, and Ryan Rowland-Smith, who's a color analyst for the Seattle Mariners and a former major leaguer. And we were talking about just all the different things, different influences, different things you love that other broadcasters do. And I remember, pointing out with Alex, I love when Alex describes an outfielder as taking the measure of a fly ball to make a catch. I love that. And yeah, you notice certain little things, like with Dan Schulman and the second batter of an inning and all of that. When you're talking to young broadcasters, one of the things that I feel like I constantly tell people, and I know it's what people told me, is you have to find your own voice. I mean, I remember listening to a demo of a guy who sent me his stuff about a year ago, and I said I liked it. I thought it was a sports talk demo, not a play-by-play demo. Thought he was really talented, but I thought he was trying very hard to be Jim Rome. And he messaged me back and said, yeah, it's exactly what I am trying to do. And I think it's great that you noticed that, because the thing that I struggle most with is, how do I be myself and not try to be a caricature or an impersonator of somebody else? What do you find, especially on the play-by-play side, and for people who are trying to get into the minor leagues who might be listening to this, what's the piece of advice that you give most often to people, or the thing that you stumble across most when you listen to demos?
Well, first, I think somebody doing an impression and impersonation of somebody else, I think that's the way that you have to start. I've got a 1.5-year-old right now. How is he getting language? How does he say words? Because he's getting it right from hearing me and hearing my wife. So if you're speaking the language of a baseball broadcaster, you can only learn that language from a baseball broadcaster. Al Michaels did Vin Scully when he was coming up as a young baseball broadcaster, because that was the language that he heard. So that's the language that he can share. That's the only language that he knows how to share. And so there is this, it's such a peculiar question to say broadcast voice. I'll have people say, oh, is this your broadcast voice? Well, yes, you cannot talk on air the way that you do in person. It doesn't work, because in person, I can gesture, I can have facial mannerisms. Sam can interrupt me at any point, which he can't if he's listening to me broadcast. So I can be much more monotone. I can say, I can struggle for different words. And in broadcasting, all of that changes, and you are now punching words, and you're going low and you're going high, and you're speeding up and you're slowing down. All of that has to be learned and practiced. So what I tell broadcasters is this: like Stephen Curry shoots that three-pointer in the corner 1,000,000 times to practice it and get the muscle memory right, you have to get muscle memory right for your words. You have to understand the pauses. You have to understand the timing. You have to have the words as tools at your disposal, which was led to the creation of the baseball thesaurus, because I didn't have the right words as tools. If you are searching for what is the proper word in the proper moment, it's really difficult. So what you need to do is actually have it there ahead of time and put it at the front of your tongue, whether you've written it down on a sheet of paper in front of yourself, whether you've practiced it so much, so that way you've got those words available. And then that leads into, okay, the game's going on and here we go. And that's why Vin Scully can be poetic, because he's reading poetry in his normal life, so it's already there on the front of his tongue. That's why Joe Buck knows what to do with his voice, or I think Joe Davis is a master of vocally using, because the dude understands his voice. So when the moment comes, he's practiced it and it becomes vocal muscle memory. So that's what I tell young broadcasters is I say, call me a ground out to third right now. Call me a fly out to left field right now. And if you understand the mechanics of it, you understand the mechanics of what makes a home run call, then you'll know what to do and you won't even have to think when the moment shows back up.
Jesse, you're obviously passionate about the art of broadcasting, passionate about helping others. I'm curious to kind of throw it not back on you a little bit, but in your own career, you've now been a minor league broadcaster for 12 years, I believe. This is your 13th season, something like that. You've certainly gotten a lot of feedback along the way. What is some of the most important critiques you have gotten, or the most helpful advice you have gotten to hone your own craft?
Oh man, that would make a very long list. I've been broadcasting. I joined in 2005, was my first season in pro ball, but I was a pregame, postgame show host with the Brockton Rocks. So 06 with the Montgomery Biscuits was my first year in minor league ball. And one of the first things that I was told was don't upspeak, that I would end every single thing that I would say upspeaking. I came at broadcasting from Shakespearean theater. So I was working in Montgomery, Alabama, and I was told, drop my G's. I was enunciating too clearly. For crying out loud, this is not the stage. The people in Alabama don't need to hear somebody walking. So very much, I was told, slur my language. And now recently I got a critique. I think that you need to enunciate better. I was told, don't talk in complete sentences. That when you call the action, everything should be broken up. Grounder to third, bounce to third, backhand, Johnson plants, throws, one down. If you can break things up, that puts you right where you want to be. Jerry Howard, the former voice of the Blue Jays, called it lag. That if you could lag behind a play and then use those short phrases, you could catch yourself up, because lagging allowed your brain to process what you're seeing. If you're not giving your brain time to process, that's when you run into trouble. That's when you start to call things that didn't happen. A ground ball that a guy grabs, except that it went through his legs. Or you just might get something wrong. You might get stuck because you haven't lagged enough behind it to allow the brain to process. And then from Joe Block with the Pittsburgh Pirates, he said that you just have to take things up a notch. And that is with the highlight reel play. That the highlight reel play must sound special, and that you must crush that like a home run, or to put a pitcher's metaphor on it. When it comes time for you to throw 100 miles an hour, throw 100 miles an hour. That your fastball on that highlight call should not be 88. Now you need to command it. You can't lose your command of that 100-mile-an-hour fastball, but you better hammer that highlight call, because that's what everybody really wants to hear in the end.
Well, Jesse, really appreciate you sharing your expertise, your passion for the art of broadcasting. I know minor league fans in Lansing and all over have enjoyed interacting with you on Twitter through the years, and of course, listening to Lugnuts games. And Demo Critique Day, awesome idea, bringing new voices into the fold, helping people develop their careers. The hashtag Demo Critique Day on Twitter. You can check that out to see the kind of things that the feedback people are looking for. And if you're into broadcasters, you can follow a lot of the broadcasters you see on Twitter using that hashtag and follow their own careers. Because just like with the players, broadcasting is a long road and tough odds, and have a lot of respect for the people such as yourself who do it. So thanks so much for coming on the show before the show. And Jesse is holding up his shirt. So his closing words, please tell us what's on your shirt, Jesse.
We need to encourage more voices. We need to do everything that we can because me being a broadcaster in the industry, I'm by nature a gatekeeper. So whatever we can do to open those gates, wide open for styles that I don't understand, for people that I'm never, ever going to meet, whoever we can. It is a very white, straight, male industry, and the more perspectives that we can possibly get, the better. So any ideas that anybody has to amplify voices and to encourage more people to do this, it's such a great craft. Thank you.
Amen to all of that.
Well said, Jesse. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you.
Big thanks to Jesse Goldberg-Strassler. You can find on Twitter at JesseGS. He is really just one of the best dudes in all of sports broadcasting, and just a great guy, great human being as well. And a big thanks to him for joining us, and a big thanks to you guys for letting me sit in on the interview, or should I say just jump in at a time when I deemed appropriate, when I got back from a different engagement for work stuff.
No, I was really happy that you jumped on, because you can speak to all of those things that you and Jesse just spoke to much better than Ben and I can. Like, we're going to ask the layman questions, which maybe the audience will have.
Yeah, there's a place for that
too. Like, you need that person who's just like, I don't know this, speak to it on a very basic level to me. Right. But also, you guys can get into the weeds about that stuff. And we just ended that interview saying, like, all the stuff that I didn't know about, particularly the Dan Schulman thing about like the focus on the second batter of the inning. The first one's to introduce the inning. The second one, you can go a little bit deeper on. The third one, again, just explain the action. There's so many levers that go beyond just, hey, let me explain to you what happened here on the field. It's fascinating to hear, and it's something that hopefully a lot of broadcasters are now getting critiques on after that big event on Monday.
Absolutely. And so with that, we'll dive into 3 strikes for this week's episode of the show before the show. As we noted earlier, we have a full Wander podcast, the episode which should be in your feed right now. If you want to hear all of the Wander chat, you can go over there to catch that one. But we're going to do some Wander connected topics here for 3 strikes. So strike 1, Sam, is there anybody currently in minor league baseball who you think by the time they debut could have the same level of hype as Wander Franco? I know of one name. I'm betting you know the same, and we're probably thinking of it. Who do you think that could be?
I mean, are you thinking somebody other than Adley Rutschman?
I am.
Okay, well, that's great. That's great, because that makes for good podcasting. I'll just say Adley Rutschman real quick, because I think in recent years, you look at somebody like Mickey Moniak or something like that, the number 1 overall pick doesn't hold as much heft in baseball as it does in, let's say, basketball or even in hockey. Some of these other bigger sports, obviously the NFL, if it's like a quarterback or something like that, somebody makes their debut, it's a huge deal if they're the number 1 overall pick. There's a lot of machinations that go into the MLB draft, and we'll be touching on those, I'm sure, as we get closer to the draft in July this year. But Adley Rutschman, since he was taken by the Orioles, has kind of been circled as the next big, not only catching prospect, but like two-way prospect in baseball. He can really defend the position. He can hit really well. He felt like the culmination of the Orioles rebuild. You talk to anybody on Bowie, he's a leader of that team. He works really well with the pitching staff. He hits extremely well from both sides of the ball. So I think when Adley Rutschman makes it back to Baltimore, I think we're going to hear lots of, hey, this is the return of Orioles magic. Some of those runs that we saw a couple of years ago with, like, when Chris Davis and Adam Jones was still there. And, the part of the last decade when the Orioles really felt like they had something going, and then it fell off a cliff really quickly. When Adley Rutschman makes it to that level, we can start to see Camden Yards again on a national stage a lot. And I think that there's going to be a lot tied into that as well. I think Orioles fans want it to happen. They want him to come up and be that guy. And I know that's putting a lot on him, but he has the goods. Like I said, on both sides, he's a good hitter. He's a good defender. No matter what, he's going to provide value to the next contender in Baltimore. So when he does arrive, I think that'll be a big deal. Tyler, now that I'm saying this, I have a guess on who yours would be, but who is it?
I don't know if I want to hear your guess first. No, I'm going to tell you who it is. This one's a ways off. Potentially, it's a ways off. But Jason Dominguez, the New York Yankees.
Oh, yeah. No, actually, that was not my pick.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to do another J-Rod.
Interesting. Well,
I don't think J-Rod, because like he entered the year behind Kelnick. We've already seen Kelnick make the majors. There was tons of hype there, but it wasn't at Wander Franco level.
I'm currently
Jason Dominguez is perfect.
Currently in the same hotel as J-Rod. I could go try to find him somewhere, bring him on for a repeat appearance on this show before the show podcast.
What are you doing here? Go, man. Knock on every door.
Jason Dominguez, currently an 18-year-old prospect in the New York Yankees organization who has yet to play a minor league game. He is 24th overall in all of baseball, but he has engendered comparisons to, among others, Bo Jackson, Mickey Mantle, and Mike Trout from scouts who have seen him play. Now, that is insane stuff to put on an 18-year-old kid, especially because of the fact that they really started putting that on him at about 16 years old. He signed in 2019, and he was born in 2003. And that's when those comparisons started. That is insanity. But all of these things, all of these caveats leading me down this road. If Jason Dominguez lives up to his billing, climbs through the minor leagues relatively quickly, and let's say he's on the doorstep of the major leagues by the time he's 21, the way Julio Rodriguez is right now, not necessarily on the doorstep of the major leagues, but a guy who's climbing very quickly and is a very highly touted prospect. The combination of a talent that special, a franchise like the Yankees, and New York and East Coast media will produce more hype for any prospect than maybe we have ever seen. And I, obviously I relish in my role. I was going to say I hate my role, but I kind of relish in my role of being the guy who says like, yes, you overblow everything from the East Coast. I don't care who your next mayor is in New York City. I'm sorry. Why does it have to lead newscasts across the country? It doesn't affect my life. But Jason Dominguez, well, I mean, it does, but not in the way that, people are trying to project that it does.
I'll save that for our third podcast this week.
In which we diagnose the results of the New York City mayor race. Jason Dominguez, if he does produce the way people, scouts, player development people, evaluators think he will, he is going to be a hyped prospect, the likes of which we have never seen.
Yeah, I think there's a lot and it's still like the air of mystique around him right now. I mean, the reason why he's not a top 10 overall prospect in baseball, despite getting those comparisons that you're talking about, is we have not seen him in a minor league game.
We've never seen him play.
The Yankees, he is playing at extended spring training from, all the reports we hear. Like every once in a while, he'll pop up with a video of here's what I did today. So he is getting in games, but the Yankees have taken the slow road with him, which, it's not about what you're doing in June 2021. Obviously, they wanted him to get to a good place by 2023. And if he just doesn't have that pro experience, you want him finding his legs stateside. I totally understand that. Maybe if your short season ball, but your Staten Island still existed or your Pulaski's, he'd be sent there. But yeah, as of right now, we can still fill him with all these tools and say he can do all these things. And he very well could. I mean, it's a lot of smart people saying he is one of the best overall prospects we have in the game right now. We just need to see it. And maybe once we do, maybe things fall off a little bit. We're going to get results, and results can sometimes be disappointing. I think back to Kevin Maitan. Remember Kevin Maitan?
Yeah.
He's still a prospect. Like he still exists.
Yeah.
But at the time he was the big international signing by the Braves, then went to the Angels in a big coup because of Braves international sanctions. And we're not talking about Kevin Maitan now as one of the best prospects in baseball because he fell off a cliff. Stateside ball was hard. Hitting is hard. Jason Dominguez has a lot of other tools to fall against, but if he is who we think he can be and he's knocking on the door of the Bronx, I think there's going to be a lot of people going to Scranton Wilkes-Barre games and tuning in on MiLB TV and like checking in even on MLB Network for every at bat when he's with the Rail Riders. If he ever even goes there, maybe he jumps straight from Somerset to the Bronx. But yeah, Jason Dominguez is a fantastic pick on top of Rutschman.
And what's interesting too is there, according to MLB Pipeline, there were people in the Yankees organization last year who thought, had we had a normal world and a normal 2020 minor league season, he could have made his debut at low A last year. So there's, I would say, a decent potential that we see him at some point this year stateside, but obviously the pandemic and everything else has made that a little bit less of a certainty. And hey, man, he's 18 years old. If he goes in his age 19 season to high A, he's still absurdly below the curve in terms of the age bracket that's generally at that level. So it's going to be fascinating to watch him. Strike two this week, Sam. Matt Manning made his major league debut with the Detroit Tigers on June 17th. And also pitching today on the 23rd. His debut came opposite Shohei Ohtani, and he acquitted himself very well. 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, a couple of walks, 3 strikeouts. Looked pretty good. Your impressions from Matt Manning's major league debut with the Tigers?
Yeah, so this is something we probably could have talked about last week because we knew it was coming, but then we got to see his debut, I think, the day the podcast went up. So anyways, Matt Manning is now with the Tigers, joining Casey Mize and Tarek Skubal in that rotation. Injuries led to that. But what I've seen from Matt Manning is actually pretty positive, given what he was at AAA before that. He had the highest ERA in AAA ball. It was above 8, I believe, which is not obviously what you want. And then he comes in that first game against Ohtani. Ohtani probably outpitched him. Not a huge surprise. Ohtani's been one of the best overall players in baseball this year. But the fact that Matt Manning came in and settled in really well, he only ended up giving up 2 earned runs in 5 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. So it wasn't like killer numbers here, but for somebody who's just plugged in after some significant struggles at AAA, the Tigers, when they called him up, said, like, we think he's on a good trajectory. You're looking at the overall numbers, but the way he's been trending has been better. And that certainly came through in that June 17th start. As we're sitting here right now on June 23rd and recording this during another one, he's given up 2 earned runs in 4 innings. So again, seems to be settling in okay. One thing I was really impressed with during that start is that it was pretty clear to me that he grew in confidence as it went along. One thing also is that he was giving a heavy, steady diet of fastballs. As of right now, 68.8% of his pitches have been the fastball. He's mixed in some sliders and curveballs, which, based on what I've talked to the Tigers, it used to always be curveballs, but they seem to be like the breaking ball is something he's working on, trying to figure out if it is a curve or a slider. It can give multiple looks, which can be a good thing, but also you want a consistent breaking ball. And he's also throwing a couple changeups. But the fact that he is sticking with that fastball right now, which traditionally can be around the mid-90s. He's averaging 93.9 miles per hour, so about what we expected from him. He can touch a little bit higher than that for sure. But it's just another big piece of the puzzle locked in for the Detroit Tigers. And if he can continue to grow off of this already pretty decent start, then that could be huge news, because we're seeing Casey Mize get better as the season goes on. He certainly took his lumps last year. Tarek Skubal took his lumps last year. Both of those have been improved in 2021. So if Manning can kind of get on that same curve, then the future of the Detroit rotation that we all thought was going to be these 3 guys could be further locked into place by the end of the year. And hopefully we're going to see the Tigers taking a turn, not only in terms of what makes up their farm system. We're already seeing that now with guys like Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, and Dylan Dingler taking over as the faces of the farm system, rather than it being so pitching heavy in the past. But maybe if you know that 3/5 of your rotation is homegrown and going to be here for a while, maybe the Tigers can start making some moves in the offseason to really try to start to compete in the AL Central in 2022. So promising signs so far for Matt Manning. Don't think it's killer stuff necessarily right now. I don't think he's showing like why he's a top 20 overall prospect. But again, if this is the base that he's starting from and he can grow like Mize and Skubal have, then the Tigers should be pretty happy with where he stands.
All right, Sam, final strike this week. We are now over a month and a half into the minor league season. We saw some guys get off to really slow starts who have started to turn it around. Who is sticking out most to you among the players who have come on as June has gotten deeper and deeper?
Yeah, the one I will shout out here real quick is JJ Bleday. Marlins first rounder from 2 years ago. Obviously could have been, started his career last year, didn't get in a full season. So for all intents and purposes, this is his first full season, and he's starting out at AA Pensacola, which did not feel like aggressive by any means. He is 23 years old, so he is pretty age appropriate for where a top prospect should be. But he got off to a really rough start, and I don't know what you want to attribute that to. He did participate in all the alt site last year, so it's not like he was completely off in 2020. But it could just be facing AA pitching is extremely difficult. And he batted 141 in May and had a 235 slugging percentage. This is somebody who, when he was at Vanderbilt, led Division I in home runs. So we know the power is there, but he hit only 1 in 85 at bats in the season's first month. Now in June, everything's working out on a much better level. He's got a 284 average in June, 522 slugging percentage, 856 OPS, 4 homers, so 4 times as many as he hit in May. And that's coming in 18 fewer at bats. So one thing he's doing less of as well is striking out. He struck out 30 times in May, only 11 strikeouts so far in June. And he's also walking less. So what that tells me is he's probably getting more aggressive with pitches to hit earlier in the count. It's great to be patient and, wait for your pitches and not try to attack. But if it's going to mean you're getting into a lot of 1-2, 2-2, 3-2 counts and leading yourself to a lot of opportunities to strike out, sometimes that's not best for a player. So if maybe what JJ Bleday is doing right now is jumping on balls earlier in the count, realizing, hey, this might be 1-0, but it's something I can drive right now. Let me go and get after it. So that promising signs all around for JJ Bleday. We're going to need to see this continue as the season wears along. And again, this is his first full season, so there might be a time where he's going to tire in August and September. But if he can carry this June into July and August, then JJ Bleday will be every bit the player we thought he could be. Tyler, is there anybody, as you're working the nights and following a lot of this, is there anybody who's starting to pop up more and more here in June?
Yeah, one guy who I feel like we're hearing a lot about more and more is the top prep player from last year's draft, who is Zach Veen of the Colorado Rockies, the outfielder prospect who's played both corner spots. He's DH'd a little bit this year. Zach Veen, his overall numbers in June have not necessarily been mind-blowingly better than they were in May, but he started really slowly. Hit 238, 354, 350 in May in 23 games. Through 17 games in June, 246, 398, 385. He's also starting to come along driving the ball a little bit more. He's got his first home run. The thing that's really stood out to me about Zach Veen are the things that when you saw his profile, saw his size, saw the way he hit in high school, you think, oh, that's a future big-time power bat in the major leagues in the making. Zach Veen, his plate discipline has been tremendous. During the month of May, he struck out 30 times and walked 13 times. So far in June, he has struck out 20 times. He's walked 16 times. And this is a player who was in high school this time, 14 months ago. He is 19 years old. That plate discipline at low A with the Fresno Grizzlies is pretty impressive. Also, the way he's stealing bases is ridiculous. Zach Veen started, and I think at the beginning of the season, we all assumed, well, this guy, maybe he's just kind of catching people off guard, with the way he runs. His run tool is a 50. That's major league average, according to MLB Pipeline. But during the month of May, he stole 13 bases and was caught 6 times. He has stolen 8 bases in the month of June and has not been caught once. So he's at 21 stolen bases. That is something that we don't really see anywhere in baseball anymore. 20 stolen base seasons for prospects is kind of becoming a rarity. Zach Veen, not a guy who you would expect really to be a runner in the way that he has been as a professional. Very impressive stuff from him in some intangible things as well that have not been necessarily maybe what you would have expected with a guy who comes in with a really good power tool, a really good hit tool. He seems like he's getting a lot of stuff figured out in areas of the game that maybe you wouldn't have expected with him in his debut season. And he's with the Fresno Grizzlies in low A and has been pretty fun to watch so far.
Yeah, one thing we should mention too about why he has been able to be so aggressive on the base paths is because of the new low A rules, which mean that low A pitchers are only allowed 2 pickoff attempts per plate appearance.
Right.
Now, all credit to him for taking advantage of that in the way that he has. I mean, just because the rule exists for everybody, he's still doing it at a level that many people at low A are not. But I think that's allowed him to steal more bases than he typically would have. So if you're expecting him to be a 20 stolen base guy through June at every level going forward, that might not be the case. But hey, you can only play where you are. And if the rules indicate that guys are only going to throw over twice or else be incurred a penalty and you want to take advantage of it, the fact that he's doing that is certainly a plus in his, in his profile.
That'll do it for 3 strikes on this week's episode. We're back to wrap up the show next.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Miners. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Miners, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One was around way back when, the others are pure hooey. In last week's segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A, the East Moline Easy Marks. B, the Shreveport Suckers. C, the Riverside Rubes. As all of you savvying slicksters know, the correct answer is C, the Riverside Rubes, who were a shining example of gullible go-getters in the Sunset League of 1948 and 1950. The franchise played other years as the Dons, but they doffed the Dons unis for the Rubes rags to give some yokel flavor to their Southern California burg for 2 non-consecutive seasons. The Rubes were befuddled when their 74 and 68 record left them 7 games beneath the soaring Mexicali Aguilas in 1948. About half the circuit played the Rubes for fools again in 50 when Riverside finished 4th. The Rubes had 3 players who already knew their way around the big city, the big leagues. George Castor was perhaps fishing for another shot at the majors when he landed with the Rubes in 48 at age 40, taking a walk on the Riverside team as part-time manager and pitcher.
Hey, what's going on this side?
When Bud Swartz and Ken Richardson came to the Sunset League in 1950, they too were on the Sunset side of their careers. But while traveling and industrial league teams known as the Riverside Rubes shucks their way around diamonds both before and after the slack-jawed 9 played in the minors, the nightfall for the Sunset League meant the end of the naive franchise as we knew it.
Hey, Ma! Get off the dang roof!
The San Bernardino Sun reported in January 1951 that the Rubes were getting rubbed out with upwards of $10,000 in debt, and other teams in the league were worse off still. With the conflict on the Korean Peninsula raging, the paper relayed, Riverside executive Joe Wilmer has this to say on the Rubes El Foldo. With the war factories buzzing and the army calling, men aren't going to play for $150 to $300 a month, and the clubs certainly can't afford to pay more than that. And so, that was that, and believe it or not, that's the rumpus on the Rubes. Now, turn up your noses and suck as we sniff out the aromatic answer to next week's question. Which of these floral-themed teams were the resplendent beaux of the miners' salad days? A, the Yakima Cherry Blossoms. B, the Lancaster Red Roses. C, the Fort Brady Flying Daffodils. Want to know the answer? Head to the Garden of Knowledge and get digging. Or tune into next week's edition of Ghosts of the Miners. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is impersonating Salvador Dali, and it's getting absurd.
Saying goodbye for this week's episode of the show before the show. MiLB.TV is your place to catch all of the top talent in minor league baseball. Sam, what are you watching on MiLB TV this week?
Yeah, so I know I mentioned the Bowie Bay Sox a lot. They are hosting New Hampshire Fisher Cats, who already have some stud prospects on their team. Austin Martin, somebody who we could have mentioned last time. I think he's starting to get hot in that last segment. Jordan Grosjean's on that team as well. But one name I want to shout out real fast, who's the latest addition to MLB Pipeline's Top 100, is Gabriel Moreno, who I've thought of in the past as like a pretty good hitting catcher, a decent defensive catcher as well. But right now, WRC Plus, which puts everybody on a scale where 100 is average, and the minor league levels, it puts in league factors. So if you're performing really well at a hitter-friendly league, then you're going to get dinged a little bit. Or if you're performing really well at a pitcher-friendly league, you're going to get elevated a little bit. He has the second highest WRC Plus in all of minor league baseball. at 204. Again, average is 100. So he's hitting 385. He's got a 452 on base percentage, 684 slugging. This is a reason why we pushed him into the top 100, because I think you mix that with the fact that he plays catcher, the fact that he has some pretty good defensive tools. And it seems like every night that something's happening. And I know for a long time, the New Hampshire Fisher Cats themselves were trying to campaign for him to make the top 100. That's not why he made it there. But the fact that he has been this productive has been super special. And he might be the best offensive player on that team now, at a time when we thought Groshans and Martin were ahead of him. So that's pretty exciting. But not only in that series are you getting those three, you're getting your Adley Rutschmans, your Taryn Vavras. So it's, no matter when you tune into that series, I think you're going to see something special on the field. So keep your eye on New Hampshire playing at Bowie this week. Any of those 6 games, you're not going to go wrong. Tyler, anything you got your eye on?
I was going to go with Zach Veen and the Fresno Grizzlies, but they will be in Visalia and therefore not on MiLB TV. So I'm pivoting to Bryce Turang and the Biloxi Shuckers. Bryce Turang has been really, really good as of late. Guy who's OPSing 800 in the month of June and has really started to come on strong. He and the Biloxi Shuckers will be at home taking on the Montgomery Biscuits, and you can catch all of those games on MiLB TV. There's some fun talent on that Biloxi roster. And, you learn how to say all the Louisville, Biloxi. What are you all doing down there? Montgomery.
It's like what Jesse said.
Exactly. I was just going to say, like Jesse was saying, I gotta drop all of my, you can be watching MiLB TV while you're eating some, I'm going to stop. But the Biloxi Shuckers and the Montgomery Biscuits coming up this week on MiLB TV. That'll do it for this week's episode. Go catch the Wander episode as well. We're talking all things Wander Franco. He's Sam. I'm Tyler. We'll talk to you next time.